Hi, I am Ozzy the Wonder Squirrel. I want to tell you about my t-shirts. You can get your own at deaditesanddeck.com today. And if you don't want to take my word for it, here's a satisfied customer.
Ozzy the Wonder Squirrel, the cutest rockin' squirrel in the universe.
Hi, my name is Henley, and this is Ozzy the Wonder Squirrel. If you want a rockin' head like this, go to deadicesondeck.com.
What were you thinking when you made this film? Did you research this movie before watching it? You call that horror? I'm saying stop. I'm calling the shots. No more! Stop. Look and watch. Is that creepy, gory, or suspenseful? No. Please put it back on the shelf. Say what you will. This film does nothing but kill the horror mood. The horror mood. You call that horror? I'm saying stop. I'm calling the shots. No more!
Hi, I am Ozzy the Wonder Squirrel. Don't forget to watch Evil Dead Chick on Deadites on Deck on YouTube. Oh, and subscribe, man.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. The one who can't sleep. It's 2 a.m. Welcome to Dead of Night, the new show hosted by Evil Dead Chick and Friends. We'll talk about horror in all its forms, from movies to comics, from music to novels and special
Howdy, gang, and welcome to a new episode of Dead of Night. And this is going to be part two. And I've decided that since there are so many slasher movies I could talk about in the 80s, I have decided to divide these up into just 1 year per part. Okay. So I know I started out really enthusiastic and thought that I could cover like several years in one show. Uh, I found out real quick I couldn't do that. But, it doesn't hurt to be optimistic. So I have a new overlay for Dead of Night that's also a name plate holder. I wanted to show that off, and I'll be using that not only as an overlay to advertise what show I'm doing, but also to be like a placeholder for my name there. Um, so I don't know if anybody cares about the aesthetics of this stuff, but I'm just trying to punch up uh, my game, I guess, bump up my game, I guess is what I should say, with these streams and videos. And I'm trying new things out. Hopefully, they'll be eye catching. Hopefully, I'm not boring. And hopefully, this will get some new viewers coming in as well as my regular viewers. Um, it is now 1:06 in the AM where I'm at while I'm doing this. So this is definitely would be considered a dead of night show because I'm not sure how long it's going to take me to talk about the films from 1982. But I'm going to try my best to make it no longer than an hour and should hopefully be able to upload this soon after. So if you can't sleep like I can't right now, you can tune in to Dead Eyes on Deck and check this out. So let's go ahead and get started because I don't want to waste too much time with, because I kind of did housekeeping stuff a little bit earlier when I did Insomnia Cure. So we're just going to get started with the first movie, which is Friday the 13th, Part 3. No, I never got to go to the movie theater and see it in 3D. I wish I had been old enough, folks, but sadly I wasn't. In 82, I was just a wee thing. I was born in 76, so not old enough to go see a Friday the 13th film at the theater. So for those of you that did get to experience it, were old enough to experience it in the theater and got to see it in 3D, I'm a little jealous because the only way that I've been able to watch it is one in stereoscopic 3D, which is not bad. I'm not going to go into a long discussion about what stereoscopic 3D is. But if you're interested in it, you can look it up. I don't even know if they make the glasses for that or not anymore. A lot of people have went to like 3D TVs and the lighter weight glasses and stuff like that. All right. So enough about 3D. But the movie itself, I know that the movie probably pretty much hinged on the 3D because there were a lot of things that being pointed out of the, out towards the audience, which if you were watching it in 3D in a theater, it probably looked pretty awesome. But, by the time I watched it, I watched it on TV first before I even like saw the full uncut version of Friday 13th Part 3. And I didn't know any better at the time. I didn't know until my family got a VCR, and that opened a whole new world for me. But that's another story for another day. But, back in the day, yeah, if you couldn't watch it in 3D, it kind of seemed kind of hokey and stuff like this. And this is not my favorite of the Friday the 13th films. I mean, the first one will always hold a special place in my heart, even though Jason is not in it until the very end. But part 3 for me, it's fun at times. I'm not gonna say it's not, but it's not my favorite. And part 4, the final chapter would probably go before this one as far as my favorite ones. But I do like it. I like all the Friday the 13th films in their own individual ways. So the only thing that what struck me as funny with this, the number one thing that struck me as funny and didn't have anything to do with the 3D is I don't know whose idea it was to insinuate that Jason assaulted the main character of Chris years ago. But that's what it seemed like they were leaning towards. And that's the only Friday the 13th movie where that has happened. But anyway, Chris was attacked by Jason years ago and she passed out, and he didn't. That was the other thing. He didn't kill her. You know, Jason usually kills everybody he can. And he didn't kill her. So I don't know. And Dana Kimmel has that. Dana Kimmel is overreacting all over this film. I'm also not a big fan of Dana Kimmel because, and forgive me, Dana Kimmel, if you've changed your mind over the years, but Steve can't believe that I can remember some article in Fangoria from years and years and years ago that was the women of Crystal Lake, and they interviewed pretty much the final girls from the Friday the 13th up until that article was written. And so Dana Kimmel was interviewed, and I clearly remember her going on and on about how she wouldn't, you know, that's her choice. And I wouldn't want to do nudity in a horror film either. But she was like, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that. And some of it was about the violence. She went to Steve Miner, I believe, and said, no, you know, I'm not going to film a scene where I get my head cut off. And I'm like, okay, Dana Kimmel, this is a Friday the 13th movie. And number 2, I didn't find her that great of an actress in this. And she's as annoying as all get out. She's a very poor final girl. And really, my big reason for watching this is for the other characters. You know, you have Chuck and Chili, the pot smoking hippies. I like them. You know, I like a fair amount of I even like Shelley, the prankster, better than I do Dana Kimmel's character. She's just super annoying to me. And again, I say a poor choice for a final girl. But again, forgive me, Dana Kimmel, if you ever see this and you've changed your mind or changed how you feel about stuff. You know, I'm not meaning to badmouth you needlessly. It's just that I was always irritated by that article, that Fangoria article. And if my recollection is fuzzy or wrong, please somebody let me know. Okay. But it's still a Friday the 13th film. It still has Jason in it and has the distinction of Jason gets the hockey mask here, the iconic hockey mask that we've all come to know and love as horror fans and Friday the 13th fans over the years. So, again, I don't think I need to go into the entire plot of Friday the 13th Part 3. I mean, if you have never seen a Friday the 13th movie, you're probably not going to know what the heck I'm talking about anyway. And if you have seen them, 1 or 2 or whatever of the bunch, and there's been many over the years, uh, then you get it. You kind of have some idea of what these are about. Okay, but it is a slasher film, and I don't hate it. It's just for me, it's one of the weaker of the Friday 13th series, except for the fact that Jason gets the iconic mask from Shelley, the prankster in this. But anyway, that's Friday 13th Part 3. The next one, I had to pull Steve's copy off that I gave to him after I got the Arrow release. But this is Pieces. It's exactly what you think it is, folks. And oh man, I have great memories. And some people may think that, dang, you're just a weirdo. But if you think that, then you're not a slasher fan, because slasher fans would understand, I think. Um, I have great memories of watching Pieces for the first time. And yeah, I was a dumb kid. I didn't realize that this was a Spanish horror film until many, many moons later. I mean, you could have knocked me over with a feather if you had told me back then when I was a young, dumb kid that this was a Spanish horror film and that it was dubbed and all that. Um, it was actually a Spanish horror film, but man, it has everything, in my opinion, that you could ever want in a slasher film. So the beginning, it kicks off with a great beginning scene. We have a young boy, putting together a puzzle of a naked lady. And his mama comes up behind him. She gets terribly upset and tells him, if she slaps him across the face, full on slap, and tells him she'll kill him if she ever finds him with stuff like that again. And apparently, this was something his father had around, and his father is away in the military, apparently. And Mama doesn't like, the little kid playing with his daddy's toys, apparently. So she tells him, she calls him stupid and tells him to go get a garbage bag so they could put all this junk in it. Well, little Timmy doesn't come back with a garbage bag. He comes back with an axe and axes Mommy up into bitty bitty pieces. And when the cops come and the nosy neighbor comes, he blames it on he blames it on a big man. So apparently he grows up and he wants to put Mommy back together again. And so on a college campus, these girls are getting sliced up with a chainsaw. And apparently little Timmy, who's now a big boy now, wants to have the perfect body parts for his mama. So he sees the perfect legs, he lops them off, sees perfect arms, lops them off. And one girl is cut in half in the locker room, and a most realistic kill. And I'll tell you why. Thankfully, they didn't use a live pig, but they did get a pig from the slaughterhouse. So when you see that chainsaw slicing into supposedly the torso of this poor girl, that's why it looks real, because it's animal flesh, but it's real flesh, folks. So this movie is very bloody and gory and insanely entertaining. And I wouldn't say this if this was something realistic going on, but we know it's fake, folks. And I know everybody's not a horror fan or not a slasher fan. Some people think of slashers as lowbrow horror, and that's okay. But I find them just ultimately the funnest of the bunch. Okay. And So Joe Bob Briggs said the best chainsaw flick since the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Splatter City, 4 stars. And I would have to agree with Mr. Briggs right there. So that's Pieces. All right. So the next one is House on Sorority Row, folks. Okay. This is a college slasher through and through. We have some college girls that are getting ready to graduate and they want to have one last final fling party. Well, the house mother doesn't take too kindly to this. And the house mother also has a secret because years ago she gave birth to a baby that supposedly died. And we find out, and this is really no secret, so I'm not giving anything away. It turns out that her child lived, but her child is a little messed up. And so um, the girls play a prank that goes terribly wrong on the house mother. And they still have to act like everything's okay and still have the party. But somebody else is hanging around the house that's starts to off the sorority sisters for what happened to the house mother. So this is a fun movie. Again, this is a fun slasher. It fits the typical mold of a lot of slashers from that time period. And actually has a head in the toilet scene that's pretty cool. I just, I have a lot of fun with this. This also has the distinction of introducing me to the new wave band, 4 out of 5 Doctors. And I know people are going to laugh, but I absolutely love that band. When I found out that, yes, they were a real band, they put out real albums back in the 70s and 80s. I think they were supposed to be similar to like Cheap Trick. They were supposed to be the next answer to Cheap Trick, I don't know if I'd go that far because I'm a huge Cheap Trick fan, but 4 out of 5 Doctors, I love their music. I love it. And was able to get a few of their albums on vinyl. So this is a movie that introduced me to one of my favorite bands from back in that time period. But very good slasher, in my opinion. This one might be a little hard to find, even though there have been a few versions that have come out of this. But if you like college slashers, I think you're going to love House on Sorority Row. All right. So the next one is Alone in the Dark, another one of my favorites. I mean, this movie is creepy, folks. And the creepy factor has to really go to Jack Palance or Palance, Martin Landau. I mean, those two guys make this movie ultra creepy, especially Martin Landau. And some people that have seen Martin Landau in more, straight ahead movies, not horror movies, will say, what? What? Martin Landau? Yeah, Martin Landau is crazy to the max in this movie. And what this movie is about is a new doctor comes to work at this mental health facility. And Donald Pleasance plays the doctor, who is kind of an unconventional doctor in the way he treats these people. And he doesn't want them to feel like they're prisoners. So they have some very disturbed and dangerous patients that he puts on a different floor, and the locks are all run on electricity. So there's a blackout. Guess what? The electricity goes out. These guys get free. And there's one guy that you don't know what he looks like, and they call him the Bleeder, because when he kills people, his nose would bleed. And you never see his face. You always see him, he's always against the wall, kind of cringing and carrying on. And so you never really see his face. And the reveal is awesome in this. Because I couldn't figure out which one was, was the Bleeder. So, but when this new doctor, the reason why they break out when they get the opportunity is because the new doctor, played by Dwight Schultz of the A-Team, Jack Palance's character is convinced that the new doctor killed their old doctor, Harry Merton. When in reality, he just went and took another job. But Jack Palance tells all these other guys, he says, he killed our doctor. And he says, Dr. Potter killed Harry Merton. So now we got to kill Dr. Potter. So that's why they break out when the opportunity presents itself. So this one's fun. It's creepy. And it also has the distinction of having a punk band called the Sick Fucks. I swear to you, that's her name. And you've got songs like Chop Up Your Mother in this, folks. So this one's a lot of fun. It's creepy. Has some good kills in it, including the kill of the babysitter, Bunky. Very harrowing before she gets killed. I'll just say that too. But that's Alone in the Dark. All right. So we're not going to be talking about Bad Dreams, but we're going to talk about the other part of this double feature, Visiting Hours, which is a Canadian slasher film with Michael Ironside. And yeah, he's playing a bad guy, because most of the time he does play bad guys, and he plays them very, very well. So this movie also has Lee Grant in it, and she's a very outspoken journalist. And she's talking about crusading against domestic violence. Well, apparently Michael Ironside's character is this creepy guy that apparently he must have, committed some domestic violence offenses in his past, because he gets really angry when Lee Grant's character of Deborah Ballin is on this show and starts really laying into guys that have been accused of domestic violence. And so he attacks her. He goes to her home, he attacks her, and then when she ends up in the hospital recovering from the first attack, he makes his way to the hospital and will kill anybody that gets in his way in order to get to her and kill her. So another fantastically creepy performance by Michael Ironside in this. And I just love it. William Shatner's also in this, playing Lee Grant's boss in the film. And yeah, great Canadian slasher. I'll just say that. Fantastic Canadian slasher. But anyway, that's Visiting Hours. And I know I'm not going deep into the plots of some of these, folks, but I don't think I need to. If I tell you a little bit about it and that gets you interested and you seek it out. And folks, please remember to seek out the 4 free versions if at all possible. Because again, I love these movies that I'm talking about, folks, for various reasons. And including some that are so bad they're good, right? But I'll tell you about those. But that doesn't mean that all of you guys and gals out there are going to like them just as much as I do, right? So I don't want you to spend your money on it and then say, gee whiz, Dana talked this movie up and I absolutely hate this movie. All right. So the next one is Mortuary, and this was put out by MVD. This is part of their Rewind collection. That's why it looks like kind of like it's decorated like a VHS. So it's and this has Mary McDonnell from the Waltons that played Aaron Walton. Believe it or not, Bill Paxton, God rest his soul, was also in this film as well. But it says, before your funeral, before you are buried, before you are covered with the last shovelful of dirt, be sure you are really dead. And I have a lot of fun with Mortuary. If it's my recollection that it's been a little bit since I watched it last, but this also has Christopher George and Linda Day George in it as well. But I don't think this is as bloody as some of the ones I'm talking about tonight, definitely. But it's still a fun horror movie, folks. So, we have the character of Christy, played by Mary McDonnell. And she's been having these really horrible nightmares ever since her father, who was a doctor, drowned in the family swimming pool. And she tries to tell everybody, hey, his death was not an accident. But of course, nobody believes her until her boyfriend sees all these hooded figures that keep showing up. And they're the same hooded figures that Christy described in her dreams in the town's mortuary, hence the title. But they're going to find out the truth about her father's supposed death. But you got to watch Mortuary to figure it all out, because I don't want to give everything away, folks. So there's Mortuary. This one's a good one too. All right, so here the next one is a Christmas. Whoops, knocking things over. A Christmas slasher that I've more than likely talked about more than once. But I'm going to talk about a little bit again for you folks. That is The Dorm That Dripped Blood, aka Pranks. And yeah, this movie's a little cheesy, and the killer is a little cheesy, and all that, but it's still fun. So why anybody would want to stay during Christmas vacation at the college, but a group of these people do. A group of students stay behind. And what they're doing is their dorm is pretty much condemned. So they want to the college wants to tear it down and put apartments there, right? Put a new building and all that stuff. So these students that are staying behind are cleaning up and selling off any of the furniture, the beds, tables, chairs, etc., that are salvageable. And somebody apparently doesn't like this crew that stayed around, because they're slowly getting killed off. And there's a really awesome kill of the handyman around the college. And y'all may beg to differ if you watch this, but that kill with a power drill to the back of the head looks so realistic. So, number one, the special effects were really well done, I think, in this. Especially that kill. I was like, whoa, that's pretty good. And Dabney Zuniga, who is probably the best actress in this, to be honest, but she's only in it for the first few minutes of the film. Um, but I always love seeing Daphne Zuniga. I love her. I think she's just absolutely beautiful. Like Girl Next Door beautiful is what I think of Daphne Zuniga as. She's very, very attractive and probably easy on the eyes for you guys there. She was also very young when this was filmed. Um, so uh, Daphne Zuniga was also in some other horror films as one of my favorite uh, films that John Cusack is also in, um, called The Sure Thing. If you've never seen The Sure Thing, I'd highly recommend it. But I'm not talking about The Sure Thing. Uh, but Daphne Zuniga made me think of that. But anyway, this copy Steve ended up, I don't know why he bought it. He doesn't even like this movie. I don't know why he bought it, but he bought it at a convention from Synapse. I think they had a table at some convention we were at, and he bought it. I don't know if he got a good deal on it or what, but he ended up giving it to me, for which I'm profoundly grateful because I enjoy it. But that's The Dorm That Drip Blood, aka Pranks, aka Death Norm, which I think is the title that actually comes up on there too. All right. So the next one is Death Screams, aka House of Death. This is one that I was eagerly anticipating when I found out that Arrow was going to put it out. This is the other cover for it. The other was the slip cover. And it has the ominous tagline, "He wants your body in pieces." So, okay, folks, first of all, I don't know who wrote, like way back when I won it on an auction, the VHS I did back in VHS days. And I don't know who wrote the plot synopsis for this movie, but it was totally wrong. It made no sense whatsoever. It talked about a childhood friend grown up slashing his childhood friends to ribbons and stuff. It makes no sense if you watch the movie. And I believe also this was the film that in the UK they had the reels in the wrong order. So people were watching this in the wrong order for, like, at least in the UK, for a long time. So this has been hailed as one of the most unlikely cinematic pairings of all time, and I would have to agree with that. David Nelson, who rose to fame as the child star, playing alongside his real life family in the wholesome TV show The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, directs this. Playboy playmate and adult film star Susan Keeger, who I love Susan Keeger in this. I don't want to watch her in any adult films, but I think she's very attractive. And I like the character of Lily that she plays. She plays it really good. It is body count heavy. It has great kills in it, in my opinion. And it's called The Long Overlooked Slice of Southern Fried Hack and Slash from 1982. And I think that probably accurately describes this. So the movie kind of starts out with a bang that a couple is having a makeout session on their way to having total sex on a motorcycle. I kid you not. And they decide to get down to business when a train is coming overhead on train tracks on a bridge. And I will tell you that whenever I watched it on VHS many, many moons ago, that it was so dark The transfer was so dark, I couldn't really tell what was happening to them. It looked like something was around their necks. So apparently, you can see it a lot better on this Blu-ray. They're getting garroted, or garroted, or however you pronounce that, with what appears to be barbed wire, because blood comes out of their mouth and stuff like that. But this does seem to have one of the longest intros I've ever seen. And sometimes I will fast forward it, but the movie itself is fun. It has good gory kills in it. It has these college students. Well, some of the kids are getting ready to go back to college after the summer's over. And then Ramona is the girl that kind of stayed behind, but she's not a very good girl. She tries to, have sex with as many guys as she can. She's a little whorish, but she works at the local cafe, diner, whatever you want to call it in town. And she is dating one of the guys that's home from college. And then you have another girl who is getting ready to go to her first year of college. And she gets together with Bob, who has already completed his first year of college, and he's getting ready to go back for a second year. But anyway, they're all wanting to go to the carnival, and after the carnival, they decide that they're going to go by the lake and have a bonfire party or whatever. And they end up going to the cemetery to tell ghost stories, and then a rainstorm comes and they have to go into the house where the morticians, or the people that took the caretakers for the cemetery, used to live, but it's kind of a dilapidated house now. And then the killer starts picking them off one by one. So great 80s slasher. I mean, to me, this is quintessential early 80s slasher fest material right here. I've heard some people say that they don't like death screams. They find it boring. But I like it. I think it has just the right balance of getting to know the characters and getting your stalk and slash in there too. But his Death Screams, aka House of Death. So the next one is Slumber Party Massacre. Is this a good film? No, it's not. It's not. Roger Corman produced it, or his company put it out. It is directed by a woman. So some people have wondered, a woman directed this? How is that, that there's so much nudity at the beginning? Well, keep in mind, this was Roger Corman's company put this out. And Roger Corman always said, you've got to make a successful horror film, especially. Roger Corman will always say you need to have nudity or sex every so often in the film, and you needed to have a kill every so many minutes in the film. And I think, Roger Corman knew what he was talking about, because he produced movies for years and years and years. God rest his soul. So he had to been doing something right? So, we, of course, see the girls playing basketball. And I've said this before about this particular movie. This is the worst girls basketball team I've ever seen. You can clearly tell that these girls are not basketball players. And so then after practice or whatever, they're going to take showers, right? So you see a lot of the female flesh. So if that's your thing, you're going to get to see it there at the beginning of this movie, including Miss Brink Stevens, who is absolutely beautiful. Again, I would like to say I have nothing against attractive women. If you've heard that about me, that is that's complete misinformation on whose ever part that was telling you that. I'll just say that. People will probably say, dang, you're running that in the ground a little bit. But I just want to make it known that I don't hate attractive women. I don't hate women at all. Like I've said before, some of my best friends are women. And most of them are more attractive than I am, if not all of them. So there you go. So anyway, back to the movie. So you have the girls getting together to have a slumber party, and there's more nudity, and there's guys peeking in the window at them while they're popping their tops and putting, their negligees or their shorty shorts and t-shirts or whatever it is. But this guy, affectionately known as the driller killer, or by his real name in the film, Russ Thorne. And I met this guy, Michael Valella, plays him. Very nice man. I met him years ago at Cinema Wasteland. He plays a good killer in this, but he was a very, very nice man. But he went to prison or a mental hospital, one of the two, for killing a bunch of people in California years and years ago. So he breaks out, gets him another drill, and starts skewering people with his drill, folks, including some of the girls at this slumber party. But I don't think I need to go into more detail about the slumber party massacre. I mean, it is a slumber party massacre, and I enjoy this one, even though it's a kind of a bad, low budget horror film, but I love it through and through, folks. All right, so we got a few more to go through. All right, so this is the movie that I believe I introduced Uncle Bill to over at Dead Pit Radio, and that's Superstition. Yeah, I know. It doesn't look very elaborate. Folks, this movie is fantastically gory, and it has the tagline, "You'll believe it just before you die." And we've got James Houghton, Albert Salmi, Lynn Carlin, and Larry Pennell in this, and it's directed by James Roberson. I don't know if he's directed anything else. So this has to do with a witch putting a curse on a certain property because she was burned as a witch, and before they burned her, she puts a curse on the area there, which includes a house. So ever since then, many, many years later, ghastly, gory accidents happen. So then there's an alcoholic minister. They make a point to say he's an alcoholic, and his family move into the cursed residence. And so there's a young priest and a police detective that are going to start their own investigation into what exactly is going on here. And they wonder, has the daughter of Satan returned for a rampage of vengeance, or will the laws of the church be strong enough to cast out this demon? So we also have a ghost girl that shows up in here, a little blonde girl. It kind of reminds me of Ghost House, because it's like every time somebody sees her, somebody else will end up dead at some point. And keep in mind, folks, they have no qualms about killing young boys off in this movie, or young kids in general. Just a warning. All right, so I'm not going to talk about Mausoleum, but again, this is Steve's copy. But I am going to talk about Blood Song with Frankie Avalon in it, starring Frankie Avalon as the killer. Yes, you heard me right. Frankie Avalon is the killer in Blood Song. And I think that's what makes it so great for me because, again, Blood Song is not really a great film. But Donna Wilkes is also in this. And when he whistles this tune, "The Time for Killing Begins," and Steve was the one that introduced me to this movie called Blood Song, and I was like, I never heard of it. He said, yeah, it's got Frankie Avalon in it, and I was like, really? So just the thought of the idea that Frankie Avalon was in this horror film and he was the killer was enough to make me want to watch it. So we got this young woman, played by Donna Wilkes, who witnesses the murder of a hospital attendant by a psychopath during his escape from a mental institution. The young woman who was once given a blood transfusion from the killer, that's why she's his next victim. And Annette Bauer from Prom Night plays the mother in Prom Night, is also in this. And Richard Jekyll from Grizzly and Mako's Jaws of Death is also in this movie as well. Fantastically fun horror film. Not a good horror film, but, fits the mode, to me anyway, of so bad it's good. And that's Blood Song. All right. So here's another one that there are several people that do not like this movie. I don't know why. I don't know why they don't like it. But it's called Girls' Night Out. And I think this cover probably would get more people to watch it than the original cover for this, which this is pretty much the original cover for it, folks. So which would you go with? I would go with the one with the bear, the person in the bear suit missing this girl. All right. So I was a late watcher to Girls' Night Out. I didn't even know about this thing. But when I discovered it, and it's got Hal Holbrook in it as a security guard on a college campus, and it's also got his son in it. Retania Alda's in this, Suzanne Barnes, and Miss Laura Marie Taylor, who I met, and instead of talking to her about Friday the 13th Part 2, I talked to her about this movie, which she was in with her. I don't think she was married to him yet, but I could be wrong. But her husband, or soon-to-be husband, was in this with her. And even though I already knew it, whenever I met her, she showed me a picture of her husband, and she said, "Do you know we were in the movie together?" And I found that just so endearing. I didn't care that I knew. It was great to hear Laura Marie Taylor. It was great to meet her. Great to hear her talking about and being enthusiastic about this movie. Because I don't know how, I mean, there probably were other people that talked to her about Girls' Night Out, but that was the only movie I talked to her about. And so I have a picture with her. She was very sweet and nice. I would highly, highly recommend you meet Laura Marie Taylor if you ever get a chance. So we have a guy named Dickie Cavanaugh who killed a cheerleader because she jilted him. And he killed her during a scavenger hunt at the college many years ago. And that girl was Mike, the security guard's daughter, played by Hal Holbrook. And so it seems that Dickie kills himself in the weirdest mental hospital I have ever seen in my life. It's a mental hospital where the patients can buzz the front desk nurse and and ask for things. I don't know. I don't know what kind of mental hospital does that, and where they refer to him as Mr. Kavanaugh. But anyway, it seems that Dickie Kavanaugh can't live with himself anymore, and he hangs himself. And so then we've got some grave diggers that are, gonna put Dickie in the grave, and somebody comes and kills these guys and takes the body. And we don't know who that is. I'm not going to tell you who it is. But when they go back to the college, of course, they're going to have a scavenger hunt again. And somebody is dressing as the bear mascot for the basketball team and has put steak knives in the hand of the bear suit, or the paw of the bear suit, and they're slashing their way through some co-eds. So I don't know why people don't like it. Maybe somebody can tell me why they don't like this film, but I have heard more than one person say that they can't stand this film. But I love it, and I was glad I discovered it. And to me, it's a top drawer slasher to me. But that's Girls Night Out. All right, now remember when I said that some of these movies are going to be so bad they're good, and in some cases they're going to be really, really bad, but I still find some entertainment value in them. Okay. Hence, Boarding House. Yes, that movie. I wouldn't recommend watching the 2.5 hour to 3 hour version of it, but watching the regular version of it is okay. It's starring John Wintergate as this guy that likes to meditate, likes to sit on his desk at work and leopard in his office and leopard underwear and meditate. But anyway, he's running a boarding house where he only rents to women, to attractive women, folks. But someone or something is starting to kill off his tenants, right? And this also has a leading lady, Kalasu, who she was also a singer too, and she was John Wintergate's woman. So she is in this movie too. Not a good actress, folks, but this slasher is said to transform into sleazy, hallucinogenic maelstrom of gore, sex, chainsaws, pie fights, and yes, killer refrigerators, folks, jacuzzis, beds that eat people, and a new wave band called 33 and a Third. And it's the first, well, it's touted as the first shot on video horror film to be blown up to 35 millimeter, which, folks, that's not a good idea. It's pouring down rain now. And released theatrically, which is probably not a good idea either. But AGFA and Bleeding Skull put this out on Blu-ray. And this is the 35 millimeter theatrical cut. And for the first time in a 2-disc set, folks. So I would not recommend you buy this like I did. Even Steve was like, "You bought that, Dana?" I said, "Well, you bought it too." He said, "I know." But he said, "But you have to buy it too." But I still have a lot of fun with this movie because it's so wacky and over the top, folks, that I just can't not have fun with it. But, watch at your own risk, folks. All right. So the next one, and I've talked about this kind of recently, is Lucio Fulci's The New York Ripper. Yeah, this is not a feel-good film, folks. And some people like it, but they say it's mean-spirited, that it's a mean-spirited slasher. And I would not disagree with that. But that does not mean that I don't find it to be a decent slasher. So you've got a blade-wielding psychopath is on the loose in New York City, uh, and he's killing, of course, beautiful women, folks. Uh, Fred Williams plays a detective. And no, Fred Williams isn't his real name, but Jack Headley from For Your Eyes Only plays Fred Williams, the detective, and he's following a butcher's trail from the decks of the Staten Island Ferry to the sex shows of Times Square, folks. This is as greasy and as grimy and as exploitive as you want to get in a slasher film, folks. And it also has the distinction of being the only slasher film that I know of where the killer talks in a Donald Duck voice on the phone. And if you think I'm kidding, check out Lucio Fulci's New York Ripper. And again, this is Steve's copy here. All right. So the next one is a Dario Argento Giallo. And this is one that people don't put. They don't tend to put that up there when they talk about their favorite Argento films. However, I am exactly the opposite of those people, because Tenebrae is one of my favorite Argento films of all time. Deep Red, Tenebrae, and Suspiria are probably my favorites. But I really, really like Tenebrae. So you have Anthony Francisca playing a writer of horror novels. And his latest novel is called Tenebrae. And this also has the distinction of having not one, but two killers in it. And a lot of twists and turns along the way, a lot of bloody and macabre, and just, it's gruesomely shot, but it's almost, you cannot take your eyes off these kills because they are so grotesquely beautiful. Just like art pieces. And some people probably are thinking, dang, you're crazy. But the people that have watched a lot of Argento probably kind of get what I'm talking about here. It's almost like paintings in a museum. You just can't look away. It's an art form with Argento. And so you've got a lot of good, gory kills in this. And it's a Giallo, and it's directed by Dario Argento. I just think you can't go wrong with Tenebrae. So, yeah, that's about all I can say about Tenebrae, other than if you've never seen this and you can find it for a free version, please seek this out. Especially if you're an Argento fan, you haven't seen this. But even if you haven't ever watched an Argento film in your life, I would give that one a try too. All right, so the next one is Basket Case. And the reason why I've got my old Blu-ray version is because this is the one, I want to show it off again. This is the one signed by Frank Henenlotter that I got signed many moons ago at Cinema Wasteland. And he signed it to Dana from your friends at Hotel Broslin. And then he's signed Frank Henenlotter. Frank Henenlotter was a really nice guy too when I met him. And I think what happened was Steve bought the Basket Case Blu-ray off of Frank Henenlotter's table, and then Frank Henenlotter signed it for free. And I think this was $30 at the time. Something weird video put out this version. But I will never get rid of this unless I'm starving to death or something, because Mr. Frank Henenlotter has signed this. But basket case, oh my gosh. I remember the first time I showed my parents basket case. My mom kind of liked it. My dad said that was the stupidest movie he's ever seen in his life. But my dad, thinking stupid or not, I still love this movie after all these years. Rex Reed said it was the sickest movie he'd ever seen, but you know, I beg to differ. I think it was one of the most fun movies I've ever seen in my life. Um, so we have the main character, Dwayne, who carries around this wicker basket, and it becomes almost like a joke. Everybody asks him what's in the basket, and he says different things every time. You know, it's clothes, it's books, it's whatever. But what it actually is his brother, who was separated from him when they were kids, and they have a psychic link to each other. And Bilal, his twin, is a little deformed, folks, and he he doesn't like it when Dwayne gets a girlfriend, when Dwayne leaves him alone too much, because they were supposed to be working together to kill all the doctors off that separated them when they were kids. And some very extremely bloody kills in this. A lot of slashing going on, a lot of blood, a lot of crazy good fun, in my opinion, with Basket Case. So, if you've not seen Basket Case, you know, of course, seek out a for free version. Don't go out and buy it, because you may be like my dad. You may think that's the stupidest movie you've ever seen. But I have so much fun with Basket Case. And it's gritty and grimy and stained with New York City, folks. That's all in there too. All right. So I've got three more. And the last two I'm going to have to, good Lord, this got dog hair all over it. Just, this was put out by Second Sight Films. And I had never seen this one in my youth. But this is an Australian slasher film called Next of Kin. No, it's not the one with Patrick Swayze on it. No, it's not that one. This is a slasher movie, folks. And the tagline's "There's no place like home." Bloody home. So the main character of Linda has just inherited a place called Montclair, which is a retirement home that was left to her by her mother, who had passed away. So once she gets there and starts poking around and things, she finds her mother's diary, and she finds all this stuff about mysterious events within the house, the water turning itself on and off, candles lighting, and voices in the night. And you may think, oh, is this just standard, ghost movie? No, it's a slasher movie. So when history begins to repeat itself, Linda's nightmares are just the beginning. Montclair hides a dark secret, and she is soon fighting for her life. This is a creepy, eerie film, but it's also a great slasher film too. And I just fell in love with it. I'm like, I wish I had found this years ago. There's been several films in the last few years that I've discovered that I didn't even know existed until somebody told me about them, or I saw a documentary on horror films and saw something, But Next of Kin, if you can find a for free version, please seek this one out and watch it. And it does have the killer from oh my gosh, I'm totally forgetting the name of it. Is it Wolf Creek? I want to say it's Wolf Creek, but it has a sadistic killer from that movie, from those movies. But he's not. I don't think he plays a bad guy in this. He definitely is not a killer in this one, if I'm remembering correctly. But anyway, that's Next of Kin. All right, so the next two, I was too lazy to go and get my DVD copies out of the back room back there. So, um, the next one I want to talk about is Midnight, When the Dead Drink the Blood of the Living. If you have a weak stomach, don't come. So, um, this was, I believe, directed by John Russo. Yeah, that John Russo. And it's a pretty decent, creepy little slasher movie that I didn't hear about for years and years and years. And it's basically, I guess they're kind of like a cult that they kidnap girls or young women and keep them in cages until they're ready to sacrifice them. And you have John Amplis in here playing one of the sickos, which I find that funny because John Amplis, I met him several years ago too, and he was just the sweetest, sweetest man. You know, the guy that played Martin in George Romero's Martin, um, the vampire that doesn't really want to be a vampire. But he's a sicko in this one, very sadistic in it. But Midnight was one I kind of stumbled across. I can't remember if it was one of those. Remember when Walmart had the $5 bins, the $5 DVD bins, and you would have to dig through them to find the really good stuff usually? I want to say that's where I found it, but don't hold me to that. But I found it quite by accident. I flipped it over. I read what it was about. And I was like, oh, this sounds interesting. And I was not disappointed, folks. I find Midnight to be fun, creepy, eerie, all that stuff, and a decent slasher film, folks. So I don't want to keep y'all too awfully long, so I'm going to go on and move to the last one, which is the clairvoyant, aka the killing hour. If she sees you, you're dead. So this has Elizabeth Kemp in it. God rest her soul. She passed away a few years ago. She was also in, and I think this was, both films were directed by Armin Mastriani. I think this one was too, but He Knows You're Alone, which was a film I talked about the last episode of Dead of Night, and the one that Uncle Bill says it's like watching old people eat, and I disagree. But I believe Armin Mastriani directed this one. But Elizabeth Kemp played one of Amy's friends in He Knows You're Alone, and she plays the clairvoyant in this film. And again, it's creepy. It's a decent slasher, and I enjoyed it. I mean, some people might be bored by it, like some people are bored by He Knows You're Alone, which I think He Knows You're Alone is an adequate slasher. And, you know, you have the extra thing of, you know, she can kind of see these things happening before they happen. And so you've got that sense of dread going on of when's this person going to get it, you know, and how are they going to get it and all that stuff. But I would highly suggest if you can get 4 free copies of any of these films I talked about tonight or on the first episode of Dead of Night. And there's many more of these parts to come in this slasher series of the 80s. So stay tuned for 1983's offerings, which will be coming up whenever I get a bee in my bonnet. And I want to do one of these again. But it is now 2:13 in the morning here. So I'm going to call it a night or a morning or whatever you want to say. But I hope you guys and gals have enjoyed this edition of Dead of Night, Part 2 of 1980s slashers. And this particular part was from about slashers from 1982. So stay tuned. Well, actually, it'd be tonight or this evening at 8 o'clock. I almost forgot what day it was. 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, where I'll be talking about the The Town That Dreaded Sundown, and Wet Wilderness on They're All Messed Up. And I am officially out of here for now, folks. But as always, I'm off like a dirty nightshirt. This nightshirt ain't dirty, but I'm off like one. And I want to remind everybody, as I always do for the final time tonight, to be kind to one another and blaze that trail. Have a fantastic rest of your night, folks. And if you can't sleep and you find this, I hope you enjoy. And I'll see everybody next time.